All right, guys. So, I had my follow up with my doctor, but quickly before I get to the follow up, I am using a new phone. Um, so, I don't know how the microphone is going to be working on it. I may have to reshoot this. I don't know. I kind of just wanted to vent and get this out of my system because it was a rough day. Um, but yeah, so if just hit my face, if it doesn't sound good, then I will just have to redo it, and maybe by tomorrow I will feel differently. But I wanted to let you guys know what happened. It was a rough day. It was a rough day all around. So this video might, this video is just a big experiment because I'm going to be testing out this phone and then just venting about everything because it was a really hard day. Um, So I had my follow up with my doctor, the doctor that did the exosomes. And just a reminder, I have not given out her name. I have not given out the name of the lab that where the exosomes are from. I have not given out the name of the scientist, the researcher that developed the product. Um, I have spoken about them a lot, but I have not given out names of any of this in order to sort of protect to protect them, which at this point you guys are probably wondering, why would you protect them if things are not going well? So um, right now I'm about 10 months post exosomes. I did upload that update, so if you guys want to see it, it would probably be best to watch it before this one. That way you know exactly what is going on. I'm trying not to talk too loud because there are people that are still up. I'm kind of doing this quietly in my room, um, but I don't think anybody can hear me anyways. But like I said, I don't know the mic situation with this phone. Um, anyways, I as you guys know, I've seen a lot of different other practitioners. I saw, a naturopathic doctor. I didn't know she was a naturopathic doctor. I saw a rheumatologist. I saw um, an actual stem cell doctor in TJ, and I spoke to all of them about my situation, and I also spoke to the scientist guy, the one whose product we used, and it seemed almost like the general consensus or just the general vibe was that things are not going well, that I've had a bad response to the exosomes. From my understanding from other patients, and from some of these practitioners that I spoke to, that is not uncommon. It is not uncommon to have a bad response to the therapy. And the stem cell doctor in TJ, and then this other lady, the naturopathic doctor in Santa Barbara, they both use stem cells and exosomes in their practice, and they confirmed to me that they have seen many cases of people that respond badly to the therapy. And I had had other patients in the support group, the what do you call it, the Facebook group, tell me the same thing, that sometimes if you don't prepare your body properly, that you can have a bad response to the therapy. So, with everybody telling me that, um, and my own, the fact that some of my neurological symptoms have gotten worse, obviously, my mind, and my opinion is going in that direction. And of course, a lot of the controversy behind this scientist guy and his laboratory and all of that, it's very alarming to me, because I didn't really find out. I mean, I knew this stuff, but I didn't have confirmation that he was involved in his lab and all of that. And I was going to bring all of that up because I think it's relevant, especially when things are not going well. It's like, I don't know what kind of a man he is. And just from talking to him, I was like, I don't trust him. Like, I just don't trust this guy. You know, I have spoken about this quite a bit on my channel. I have even videos where I talk about how to speak to doctors and how to talk to them properly so that they don't start lashing out and getting weird about stuff. And I had to tread very carefully because, you know, when I go behind her back, she gets really upset about that. And again, I didn't go behind her back. This guy wanted to talk to me, and she knew. By the way, she knew when I walked in. She already knew. He called her afterwards, and then she got mad at him. And I don't know what he told her, but she told me, she's like, yeah, you called him. And I said, I did not call him. I did not call him. I said he asked if we could have a phone call because I just sent him an email saying I wanted to know a little bit more about this treatment, if maybe what I was experiencing was normal. This is the guy behind this product. This is his product. This is the stuff that he uses in clinical trials. This is the stuff that they've used on case studies. This is, he is the guy, right? He is the main guy for this. If I have any questions, why wouldn't I be able to ask him, especially paying as much as I paid? And I haven't told you guys how much I paid. I will eventually. So I don't know what he told her, but she said that she just told him, if he wanted to take over my care and if he wanted to, to be my doctor. And again, I don't know if he called her and was angry at her or was chewing her out, but I told her, I said, there was nothing in my phone call with him where I brought up the FDA or where I was accusing him of anything. I simply called him to ask him about the product and to tell him my experience and to see if he had any information that he could add, any knowledge to add to the conversation. I said he was the one that brought up that stuff. I said it wasn't me, and I didn't call him. He called, he requested, he wanted to get on a phone call with me. Just like he did last year. And I avoided talking to him last year because I knew that this would happen. I knew that it would get back around to her and that she would get upset. So, it really, I was in there, we were talking for about 2 hours. And by the way, I pay out of pocket to see this lady. So you can only imagine how much a 2-hour appointment cost me. And so I spoke to her, and things got kind of ugly. She started yelling and getting upset. She said, why don't you just go to those doctors? I'm just going to discharge you. I'm going to write a letter. You're going to, I don't want to deal with, she didn't say I don't want to deal with you, but she said that way you can go and find another doctor and I don't need to deal with you anymore. And then she starts bringing up stuff from like years ago. She was like, you left. I don't know why you came back, blah, blah, blah. Like getting really nasty, like getting really mean. And I was not being rude to her. I told her, I said, this is what the other doctors are telling me. I said, I wanted to get blood work done. I wanted to see, if there was anything. I said, because I'm coming to you and you're not really telling me anything. And I told her like that. It's very, very important to keep your cool and to not get loud with these doctors. And I know that she has kind of a short fuse, but I wanted information. And it's like, I am paying for this appointment. So one way or the other, whether you want to discharge me or not, I'm still paying for this current appointment and you're going to answer my questions. And I was like, I have to be really careful, but I have to keep pushing because if I'm not pushing, she's not going to tell me anything. So it was really rough. She basically said, you know what? She said, I'll give you your money back. You'll get your money back. She said, I'll give it back to you in installments. She said, but I'm going to write a letter. I'll refer you out to another doctor because I don't want to be dealing with this. She said, I don't like this. I don't like this kind of conversation. And again, I wasn't yelling at her, but she started perceiving it. She has some weird issues. She's really high strung, kind of defensive. And it's like, that's not, yes, the money is an issue because it's a lot of money. And she knows that because she is I'm going to tell you right now, she's a very money conscious person. And I think that's a big reason why she doesn't recommend all these different tests like, SIBO testing or fecal, parasite testing, because it's a lot of money and sometimes it doesn't show anything. So you know, I kept my cool. I was at the point where I was really nervous and I felt like crying, but I was like, keep your cool, keep your cool. Do not flip out. And even as she was telling me, I'm going to discharge you and I'm going to, I don't want to deal with this anymore and all of that, I just held steady and I was like, this is what they're telling me. I said, I don't know. I said, based on what I've been feeling, I said, my neurological issues are a bit worse. I mean, they got a lot worse. So, long story short, I know this is kind of, this video is probably going to go on a while. I'm going to see how long I can take this video with this new phone. Um, but she did say that I was the first patient. And again, when she says I'm the first patient, she hasn't done this for a lot of patients, because it's such a controversial treatment or it's a very kind of iffy situation for her to be performing this treatment on patients. She, you have to take that into consideration. So her sample size is not very large. When she says I'm the first patient that's had this kind of a response to the treatment, I'm maybe the first patient out of 5. So that's not really saying much. At stem cell clinics, they see these responses a lot more because that's all they do. All they do is stem cells, exosomes, whatever. That's probably why the doctor in TJ told me, you're having a bad response. She says, I've seen this before. It does happen. She said, and eventually it will go away. She said, but it does happen. So with her, with my doctor here, in the States, she hasn't seen this response before because she hasn't done this treatment that much. She hasn't done it in many patients. So obviously you're not going to see it. I mean, I will be the first, but I may not be the last, especially if she performs it often. But she doesn't perform this often. She doesn't do this treatment often. It's a last ditch effort when everything else fails. So in my mind, I was like, well, yeah, that's why I'm the first one that's responded this way, because you haven't performed this on very many people, and maybe not on people with my specific types of my symptom profile and how long I've been sick and that kind of thing. I was thinking that in my head. I didn't tell her that. I just was happy that she sort of came to a conclusion and told me, because I told her, I said, if things aren't going well, things aren't going well. That's not an issue. I said, but I have a right to know if things are not going well. And she said, yeah, things are just, she said, none of my patients that I've done this for have had this type of response. But she did keep reiterating that it does take a long time, and that it can take a long time, and that it can take some time. And she did eventually calm down. I kept my cool, and I will tell you, even the stress from that appointment, it's carried with me through the rest of the day. My appointment was at 12. I didn't get out of there until almost 2 o'clock, and the stress, I'm still dealing with it right now. And it's like, what is it, 7 o'clock, almost 8 o'clock. But I kept my cool because I was like, just keep your cool, because I still wanted information. I still need information, and I still had blood work that I needed to show her. So I showed her the blood work. I showed her, all the things. I said, it looks like some of this blood work has actually improved. I said, my ANA is gone. The ANA that shows that I have an autoimmune illness, because she told me, she said, it's complicated. You have all these other issues. You have autoimmune, you have this and that. And that's when I told her, I said, actually, I no longer have autoimmune. I said, I'm not showing any signs of autoimmunity. And she said, that's a good thing. And I said, yeah, it's a good thing until I have to get IVIG again, and we can't, because I no longer have an autoimmune illness. So, I told her, I said, that's just one thing to consider. And again, I'm not accusing her of anything. I said, it would be a good thing if I wasn't symptomatic. I'm still symptomatic. I said, so that's just, I said, I don't know what to make of it, but she said that was a good thing. And, she saw my other blood work. She took copies of everything. We talked again about the amalgam fillings. She said, yes. She said, some people do have, that sensitivity to those things that is kind of, extreme. She said, and some people don't. She said, it's just one of those things. Some people have a problem with them. Other people never have a problem with them and never feel anything and never have any issues. She said she said everybody is different. And she said the same thing with exosomes. She says every single person is different. We don't know each individual response. We don't know how long it's going to take for each person. She said we don't know. And she said you're different than the other patients. Some patients don't feel anything. I think most of the patients that she's done exosomes for, she said they don't feel anything, and they'll tell me, doctor, I don't feel anything. I'm not feeling anything at all. Um, she said, and it can take 6 months. She said, I guess one of her patients or somebody that did exosomes with, I don't know, rheumatoid arthritis, or I don't know, MS. I don't know. She said something, and she said it was like 18 months. But again, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm not saying that she's a liar, but I don't know if what she's saying is accurate, because a lot of the stuff that she was telling me, especially her phone call with the scientist guy, I almost said his name, there are always inaccuracies in her story. So I don't know if she just doesn't remember what she talked about with him, or if if she's kind of trying to make it out to be worse than what it is. Because I told her, I was like, I did not call him. I didn't call him on the phone. I said he asked to speak to me. He didn't, I sent him an email and he asked to speak to me. And so she said these things can take a really, really long time. She said, you saw, she told me, with IVIG, she said it can take years. She said, and I have patients where it does take years, where we do see that it takes years for them to get better, even on IVIG. She said, I also saw that some of my patients built a tolerance to IVIG. She said, that's why I suggested exosomes, because my body was not fighting infection with IVIG, which I did tell her that now I do think that I may be fighting infection a little bit better. And so maybe we should harness that and do something about it. I did discuss the fact that all of these doctors, or at least the scientist guy, the exosome guy, and the naturopath that I spoke to, they both said that my issues were gut issues. And I told her, I said, I do understand that the reason that we couldn't treat gut issues is because my immune system is not working. And it didn't matter what we threw at it. We could have thrown everything, antibiotics, antifungals, antivirals, anti-whatever. I said, and my body was not going to fight it. Even with IVIG, my body, as soon as I would stop antibiotics, that situation would come back. I said, so I understand that. I told her, I get that concept. And I understand, I remember that she told me that. And I grasped that concept because it makes sense. Whenever you're sick and you have an infection and you take antibiotics, the antibiotics are relying on your body to be able to fight off the infection. They're just helping. They're not actually killing everything by themselves. And my body doesn't. My body's not going to help. My body's just going to sit there, and then I'm going to stop the antibiotics and the infection is going to come back again. So I told her I understand that, and I understand the reasoning. That's why I don't think that what they're telling me is actually going to help unless there's something else. And that's when I told her that I've been doing better when it comes to certain infections. I said, as far as viruses and fungus and whatever, I said, I have no idea where that's at. I said, but as far as bacteria, I said, I do think that there is something, that my body is doing something with bacteria. I said, I don't know exactly what, but it is doing something. So, so we discussed getting back on an antibiotic for SIBO. She said, if you want to do that, it's going to be a long-term situation. She said, you're going to have to be on these antibiotics for months at a time in order to see any kind of improvement, and you may not tolerate it because you don't tolerate anything else. She said, but that would be worth a shot. I have to pay for it out of pocket. She said, that would be worth a shot if you want to do that. She said, that's the one thing that we can try as far as gut. But she said, Peptides, she said, I don't know. I don't work with peptides. She said, and I don't want you mixing up things. If you're going to do the antibiotics, do the antibiotics. If you're going to do the peptides, you have to talk about that with the naturopathic doctor. She said, I don't deal with that kind of stuff. She said, but don't do both at the same time. And so she, and I thought that that was a reasonable request, because then you don't know what's causing what. She said, you can try the antibiotics, but you're going to have to judge whether you're tolerating them well or not, because if you don't tolerate them well, then you're going to have to stop. I mean, I have done that antibiotic before. I did it for, I think, a couple of weeks or something, and I seem to be okay on it. But again, my body is a little bit different, and it's been kind of out of it this year because of the exosomes. Um, and I told her, I said, I value her opinion. And I said, you are the person in charge. And she did tell me that she vetted this laboratory. She vetted, all the different scientists that are involved with it. She says, I know the story. She knew the whole story, of the other situation with the lab that, a lot of people got sick. She explained it to me. She said, I researched everything. She said, I don't just pick a product out of the blue. She said, I researched everything. I researched their certificates. I researched the product. She said, and this was the product. She had a couple of different products in mind, but she said, this was the product that I wanted because I had looked into everything. And so, and I mean, that's just a summary of that conversation, but the way that she was talking to me and telling me that she went through all this stuff and researched it and looked into it and spoke to all these different, researchers and doctors, then I was like, okay, this is not just something that she, is guessing with. The vibe that I got from her was that she has confidence in this product based on the information that she got, based on her conversations with these other doctors, based on what she knows about the laboratory and all of the certificates and their manufacturing practices, and just the science behind it and the studies behind it. And she also told me, she says, I don't know why that scientist guy keeps telling you about stem cells, because he knows good and well that stem cells they're not going to reach the brain. They're too big. They get lodged in the lungs. She says, that's the reason why. She said, we need the exosomes to get into your brain. We need them to do this, not to get stuck anywhere. And she kind of told me, she said, I don't know why he keeps telling you that. She says, probably just business. He's trying to get business to his stem cell clinic. And I said, yeah, that's what I figured. But, I told her, I said, do you think that I don't know what I asked her. I asked her something like, do you really think that this is going to do anything, or that it's just making me worse? Like, I didn't really know, like, at this point, because the doctor in TJ had told me, she said, and I spoke to her in September, about 8 months post exosomes, and she said, at this point, the exosomes have done whatever they're going to do, that they're done doing what they're going to do. Personally, I don't think they are. I still feel like things are happening in my body. But she said, after 8 months, they've done everything that they're going to do. And this doctor, I mean, from my research online, it can take a year. And then my doctor is saying, it can take more than that. She said it can take a long time. It can take a really long time. You just have to be patient with it. You just have to let it do its thing. And I'm just like, in my mind, it's like, is she saying that to cover her tracks? Is she saying that because she's nervous and she doesn't want to get in trouble? Is she saying that just to, or does she really believe that? And I told her, do you think I can't remember what it was that I told her, but she responded and she said, it should work. Like, she even kind of, almost like she was like, this should work. Like, in her head, she was like telling herself that, like, this should work. It's I guess based on what she knows about the product, based on what she knows about what this stuff does, because she explains it to me. It has mRNA, it has proteins, it has this, it has that. And she was like, it should work. And I saw that sincerity, sincerity, but also maybe frustration on her end. Like, she's not fully understanding what is going on with me in particular compared to some of the other patients that she has done this for. So, it was a really difficult conversation to have. It was really tricky. And she did calm down, and she did apologize. She did apologize, and she said, "I'm sorry for yelling at you." She said, "I do want you to get better." She said, "I do want you to get better." She said, "But these things take a lot of time." She said, "And we need to have patience. They take a lot of time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight." And again, I have no reference point because the dosage that I received was so massive. And she said it has to be massive. It has to be a huge, huge dosage because, it's reprogramming all of your cells, and it just has a lot of work to do. So I was like, okay. I mean, there was a lot more, a lot more in this appointment because it was 2 hours long. I mean, the amount that I paid for that appointment was obscene. But she did reiterate, she says, "I'm going to give you your money back, but I'm going to give it back to you in installments," because she says, "We don't have a lot of money here either," which, I mean, I have a hard time believing that. But she said, "I will give you your money back for the treatment." And she